financial coaches. Coach Kelsa here, along with financial coach Emily Gowen. Say hi, Emily.
Hello.
And today I am super excited to interview Emily. We are going to dive in talking about your business model as a financial coach and trying to steer away from doing free consultations, moving towards a discovery session model, which we're going to talk more about that in just a little bit. But Emily has certainly experienced sort of an epiphany of her own throughout her career as a financial coach. She's got all the numbers to back it up, which is super exciting. And I am really excited for her to share all of her takeaways. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Kelsa Dickey, and I am a financial coach first and foremost. I help fitness enthusiasts and fit pros get in shape financially. You can find my website at fiscalfitnessphx.com. I'm also the creator of the Financial Coach Academy, which is a robust training platform and program specifically for financial coaches to help you get your clients better results and love your business. I think financial coaching is the most gratifying and rewarding way to make a living. And I just want more people out there doing it. And we support financial coaches through the Financial Coach Academy. So I'm really excited to introduce Emily. I'm going to turn it over to her. Emily, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, your business, how you got started, who your niche is. I'm just going to allow you to shower us with everything about you.
Okay. So I am a financial coach, and I officially started my business in 2016, but I had already been coaching people since probably early 2015. And it wasn't my full-time gig though until after I had kids. So in 2019, I switched to having financial coaching be my full-time sole source of income. And I got into it in a number of ways. The first way was very organically. I'm a dork about numbers and spreadsheets. I do have a math degree. And so I had already been helping friends and family make debt repayment plans and think about their budgets. And I would get really excited about helping them free up a bunch of money by paying off debt and kind of get that out of their life, give them some more freedom. And then I was a massage therapist and I was self-employed, and I just started organically helping other business owners, mostly service-based, wellness-oriented business owners. So acupuncturists, naturopaths, other body workers. Mm-hmm. And I just saw that what they were struggling with was, I'm making so much revenue, but I have no idea what to pay myself. It seems totally wild and irregular. I never have enough for my tax bill at the end of the year. And they just needed help. They needed a business budget and also a personal budget. Mm-hmm. And so I had a full-time bodywork practice, but I kept having more and more of these meetings with people where I was helping them figure that stuff out. And to me, it was so fun. I didn't even charge for it at first. And then I did trades, and I eventually started doing more and more of it. And around that same time, I learned that financial coaching was even a thing, because I didn't know that was a thing. And I saw a training at a nonprofit I had worked with that said, come to a weekend long training, learn how to be a financial coach, and volunteer and do it for free in the community. So I did that, and I was meeting with people, monthly, but the system wasn't very good. It was just kind of I felt like every time we met, we were starting from scratch.
Oh, yeah.
And so I was like, financial coaching is very cool. I feel like I'm learning these tools to help people, but there needed to be more of a framework around it. And so that's how I got started. And the last event that really got me into financial coaching now was losing my dad suddenly and getting this crash course in estate planning, or the entire lack of estate planning,
probate and all that.
And I am the only person in my family that had an emergency fund. And so I paid for everything, organized everything financially. That was stressful. But I also just learned, when life gets hard and things are stressful, there is a reason you have a cushion, because at least I had the money to make that process a little bit easier for me and my family. And it wasn't until that happened that I really got more passionate about financial coaching, because the reality of where my dad was at that time in his life and what his retirement was going to look like, which was basically a non-retirement of working full-time forever. I was just like, I want to help people avoid that.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it sounds like up until that point, it was a little bit of like, I want to help people get out of debt and save money. It was very financially focused, right? Which is very important, and it helps people, and it feels really good to do that. And also, why do we want people to do those things? What is the purpose of those things? And then you experienced why. You experienced like the moment it was truly beneficial for you to have those things, and you got to experience what it was like to make different decisions, be in control, be more decisive, feel more confident when crisis strikes and that sort of thing. Because of those financial strategies, it's like, oh, here's the emotional impact that has had on my life. And then it's like, I mean, really, that's what we should always be focusing on as financial coaches, is like, here's the impact that this can have on your life. Like that to me is the selling point of financial coaching, right? Oftentimes it's not like more money in savings or less debt. It's like, why do you want those things? What will those things do for you? Right. And it's almost like you experienced it, and then it was so much easier for you to feel passionate about the work and like the impact that it can have on people.
Yeah. And so another track of why I'm a financial coach is because I did grow up, with limited income. Sometimes the word poor feels too loaded. I don't necessarily want to say that, but my parents did own their house, but kind of, there were multiple home equity loans. And by the time they sold it 30 years later, they didn't profit. It was like they didn't ever actually own the house. Mm-hmm. And so we lived paycheck to paycheck. We used layaway. My dad worked nights. We couldn't just get anything or everything. There were 4 kids. And I saw that stress. I saw how much it stressed my parents out. They had to work, didn't take many vacations, and resources were limited. But I think the biggest thing for me was that it was stressful. Mm-hmm. I didn't like seeing them stressed out about it. And I would have loved for them to be able to take more time off work. But I was definitely raised in this working class mentality of like, work is hard, money is hard, you have to work hard to get money. Sometimes you need 2 or more jobs.
Where were you raised, Emily? What state?
Rural Vermont.
Sounds like a very like Midwest sort of work ethic and that kind of thing for sure. So just curious.
Yeah. And so work is like glorified in a way.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
And so another big reason that I wanted to become a financial coach is because I experienced this huge transformation in my relationship with money. Mm-hmm. And I came from a place of, it's honorable to be working class. It's honorable to be poor almost. And there were also all these negative associations with making money. And like, if you had money, you must be bad or not as honorable or selfish or like no integrity. Just like the ideas I had about people with money were so like random seeming now and just like not true. And so it took most of my 20s and early 30s for me to do the mindset work around money, to understand that I wouldn't be bad if I earned more money. Mm-hmm. That it might actually be nice, that it wouldn't change who I am as a person, and that so much of what holds us back as business owners, especially, is just our mindset, like our glass ceiling that we have of what we could ever make. And so I experienced that transformation and just realized how important it is when you work with business owners to help them overcome whatever beliefs they have about their capacity.
So true. Yeah. And it shows up in different ways, right? Like not just how much they keep and how they spend money, but like how they price their services and how they charge for things, especially, right? And what they think of, like, if somebody, what do they think of discounts and offering sales? And like, I mean, it shows up for business owners. It's so prevalent for sure. That's awesome. And so is that How did those things inform your business today? So like who do you serve today? Who's your niche? Have you had sort of multiple iterations of niches, which is pretty common for most coaches?
Yeah, I've kind of always had two niches, couples and usually women business owners. And this year I have challenged myself to actually niche. And I told you this earlier, but I watched the training video on creating my 75-word bio yesterday. And so I will share it with you.
Yes,
because
please.
I actually have it now.
Yes. Good work. You were saying before we hit record that you had time to like work on the business yesterday. And that's always such a good feeling. It's so good to do that. Yet it's also oftentimes a thing that we push off, right? Like, oh, I'll do it tomorrow. Oh, I'll do it tomorrow. But carving out the actual time is so important. So you did that yesterday. Read us this beautiful bio, Emily.
Oh, well, it's a rough draft.
Oh, that's all right.
So, hi, I'm Emily, and I coach service-based solopreneurs and their partners who struggle to talk about money and crave support as they streamline their finances, agree on shared goals, and co-create their future. I give them the tools to confidently manage their money so that they can enjoy spending now, save more than ever before, fix their cash flow, and feel financial peace of mind. That's my new niche.
You've combined them.
I combine them, yeah.
I mean, it's brilliant. I love it.
Well, I realized that when I looked at my client list, because I did all the work in the FCA about niching again, because I took that in 2018. And so it had been a while.
Yeah.
And so I went through that again. And then I looked at my client list and I was like, oh, so many of my clients are couples where one or both of them is self-employed.
Yeah.
And it's really fun. And
choosing our niche is not a step one, do this, step two, do this. Like you can start there and sort of narrow it down a little bit, but it is so much more of a journey of discovery, I think, than what people, I wish there was like, oh, this is what it is. This, you just do it this way and it gives you a clean answer. But it's like, we almost have to experience different conversations and different people. We have to coach different situations in order to like learn, what did we love? And oftentimes what happens when I talk with coaches is it surprises them where joy comes from. Like they either find like, oh my God, I had this client and this are the types of things we were talking about. This is who they were. And I just loved every session. Right. And then there's times where it's like, I thought I wanted to do this, but I find that I kind of like dread those types of conversations when I see them on my calendar or whatever. And so we don't always know. Right. We have to experience a few things to sort of narrow it down. And sounds like that's exactly what you did beautifully.
It took a long time.
Yeah, it usually does. It was all a step towards the right direction though, which I think is really good. So let's see, any other things you want to share about your journey? Let's see, I'm trying to think if there's anything else, any goals that you have for your life that you, your business has helped you sort of create. So I see this beautiful space that you're in. Can you tell us about that a little bit?
Yeah, this space is inspired by a hot spring retreat center in the mountains in Oregon here. And they had this building that unfortunately burnt down in the wildfires last year, but it was called the Sanctuary. And they have all these gorgeous, like round workshop spaces and yoga spaces. And I've always wanted something in my yard that felt like that. And so as far as financial goals and part of my story, I did struggle with the glass ceiling forever. And at the same time, I was very scrappy and good at saving money. And so the first big financial goal I had was buying a home. And then after my dad passed, my other big financial goal was, well, I also want to buy my mom a house. And then I actually ended up buying 3 houses in 2016, which based on my income would seem ridiculous because I'd never earned more than $40,000 a year at that point, but I was just really good at saving and good at planning. And so I actually had journaled so many times about this dream I had, which was I wanted to live in this neighborhood. I wanted to have a huge yard. And I thought my dream was I wanted to have like all kinds of these buildings in my yard and have therapists and massage therapists and people using them like all day.
This is your bodywork days. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's back when I was a massage therapist. And so that dream changed a little because I realized I don't really want people doing business in my yard all day.
Yep.
But I still wanted a sanctuary for myself and this beautiful workspace that allows me to feel grounded and peaceful. And yeah, I love it.
I mean, I feel like you've combined the two, like your old body work of serenity and comfort and ease and relaxing spaces and that sort of thing with your financial coaching business and like the new role. Like you never really left it behind. You just found a different way of incorporating it into your new business and your new position and stuff, which I think is so cool. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's one of the best parts about financial coaching is that there's so many different ways you could do this, right? This work. You can do it online. You can do it in person. You can have one person at a time. You could have 100 clients and a team of coaches who work for you and like everything in between, right? So there's just so many different ways that you could do this work. And I think one of the questions is like, what would make this a dream come true business for me, right? Like, what would that look like? What's something that I would add to that? And yours is a beautiful space to work from. And I think that's awesome that you've created that for yourself. Very cool. Okay. So what is a goal that you are working toward in your business right now?
So I'm a geek about planning, and I love everything in the mastermind because my brain needs that. Like I need very concrete goals and then metrics to track those goals. So my goals now are different than they were in the beginning of the year. My main goal now is to make 100,000 revenue, working 25-ish hours a week with at least 6 weeks vacation. That's my main business goal.
I love it.
And then otherwise, I want to actually engage in and enjoy marketing because I've never really done it. Like before this year, didn't really do anything. And I think the effort I put into my website and Google was really paying off because my clients come to me so far, like half through Google and half through word of mouth and referrals. But one of my goals this year is to actually dive into marketing, know that marketing is actually a benefit to my clients because I am telling the world I'm available to help people and to learn how to market to my new niche, which I've also never done. I've kind of just thrown inspiration and random posts out there when I felt like it with absolutely no strategy.
Absolutely. So a couple of things. I love that your financial goal is grounded in the amount of time you want to work and the amount of time you want to take off. So it is not just a financial goal. It really is like a business design with a financial element, which I love because it's like, well, you could make $100,000 a year and kill yourself doing it. That's not what we're going for, right? Like we're going for 25 hours a week, taking 6 weeks off every year and still having a 6-figure business, which I think is incredible. I also, one thing just to think about as you're sort of exploring marketing for yourself is it is important to ask yourself, like, what's the best marketing avenue for my ideal client? Like, where are they? What do they need? Like that's important, of course. And it's not more important than how can I market that feels easiest and best for me? Like, what will I enjoy the most? So if you don't like, maybe you love doing video. If you don't like doing video, don't do video, right? Like maybe you like long form blog posts or longer articles and you want to write like an ebook or something like that, right? Or it can be social media content if you like creating images or that sort of thing. It can be one-to-ones, in-person networking if you do better in person, or like virtual marketing spaces, virtual networking events, and those types of things. So if you like the more real life in-person relationships, right? Versus like a video is like you're talking at somebody typically. So just think about that. Like, how do I feel most comfortable? What feels the easiest for me? What is my preferred way of showing up? Because if it's easy for you, you'll do it for longer, right? And then also that energy will come through in whatever you're doing. And then find a way of like, if that's how I want to do it, if that's what's best for me, now how can I take that and where are my ideal clients where I can sort of use that? Does that make sense?
It does. And there's actually a business goal I forgot to share, which was that I want more time for writing and creativity in my business. That's really my main goal because I'm busy enough where I could just have all of my work time be client meetings, but I love business development and writing and reflecting and just reading books about money and growing. And so part of me learning how to raise my prices and, have a revenue plan that works is accounting for that time I need during my week to be the CEO and write newsletters. And
Emily, when we hop off, after we'll stop recording, and at the end of this, I have, I think, the best idea for you ever from a marketing.
Oh, great.
It's gonna be perfect for you, and I think it's gonna be perfect for your clients. And I'm excited to share with you, but I don't want to share it on the video because I don't want anyone to steal this idea. It's for Emily only. Okay. I'm gonna share it with you as soon as we hop off, but I'm super excited about it. Just don't let me forget. Okay, when we stop the recording. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So diving into sort of like the content portion of the video, which, I mean, this is all valuable information, right? From one financial coach to another, sort of thing, like what this journey has been like. But like how we serve our clients, there's so many different ways that we could do that. And I know you and I both had a very similar experience early on where we did free consultations, right? So I've shared this in videos before on our YouTube channel. There are a couple of different training videos on the discovery session model, why we recommend it, how to set this up, how to price for it, like all those types of things. And it's essentially this idea of you either do like a 1 hour free consultation, and then you, on that call, invite people to work with you for a longer period of time. Let's say a 3-month program or a 6-month program or something like that, but it starts with a 1 hour, typically free consultation. That's very popular, right? That's pretty prevalent as far as like advice that's given. I certainly tried that for a while. And then after that 1 hour free consult, it's like a 4-session package or 3-month program. It doesn't really matter, but it's usually something, right? After that. And what we shifted to was a discovery session model, which is essentially, we will do a 15-minute call with somebody. So that is a free consult, but it's a 15-minute call. But then our very first session is a deep dive session. So instead of an hour, maybe it's 90 minutes or 2 hours. It really doesn't have to be like a set amount of time, but it's longer. It's a paid session though, right? So it is a paid coaching session. It's a one-time coaching session. And it really helps both people to experience coaching, right? Like, here's how coachable this person is. I'm also going to get a lot of information from them. So I know I can actually give them concrete strategies. This is not just like us talking for an hour. It's like actually diving into their situation, their numbers, giving them strategies, that kind of thing. And that person can experience what coaching is like from us, right? And it sort of serves as like a baby step commitment of like, they have to put in time and effort to complete the prep work, right? They have to invest a little bit of money. These typically aren't, thousands of dollars for a session or anything like that. But it's typically sort of that baby step investment. So you're, helping them prepare the idea, like emotionally and mentally, that there is an investment in order to receive coaching, right? Whether it's a little bit of coaching or a lot of coaching, there's an investment because it's valuable, right? So we're immediately placing value on what we do for people and the type of coaching that we do. And I know for me, this is certainly the business model that we recommend in the Academy. Of course, we break that down step by step. From the discovery session, you then can invite people to work with you for longer, right? After that. And for me, it was a game changer. I went from free consultations. People would show up. One, there was no shows, like, not a lot, but certainly enough, right? Where it's an hour on your calendar that now is like for nothing. But then also people would show up just a little bit more relaxed or disengaged, or it was sort of like, okay, they would sit back and be like, okay, what do I need to know, sort of thing, as opposed to like leaning in, and we're both leaning in. We're both like, let's do this. Like, it feels more collaborative as a discovery session versus like the free consult sort of thing. And I also felt like when I did free consults, people were much more guarded because they knew at the end there was likely going to be a sales pitch. It was almost like they sensed it, you know what I mean? And so then it was really hard for them to show up in a very open, vulnerable way of like, we're going to talk about money and your goals and, heartaches around money and like all those types of things, which are really not always easy for people to talk about. And so to come in guarded already is really hard. Right. So when we switched to the discovery session, it was like the caliber of people, like how they showed up to that session was very different. They were very engaged and that sort of thing. And they were like ready to be coached, right? They were like ready to go. And it was just the conversation just up leveled immediately from doing it. And I think some of the reasons people don't like to do this is because you're technically like selling twice, right? So someone's got to like do a session with you, your discovery session, and you might have to sell that idea to them. You might have to say, yes, I charge for this session, right? And then at the end of that session, you have to invite them to work with you for longer, which is another sort of sales conversation. And I think people don't want to do this. They want to avoid it for that reason. But if we are building everything right and all the nuance in there of like preparing them mentally, emotionally, delivering value, those sales conversations happen so much easier than the actual sales conversation at the end of the free consultation, right? So there's like so many benefits of doing this. I also feel like for me, I felt like I was valuing myself better when I did this. Like I felt like instead of feeling like I was being taken advantage of or giving all this great free advice or somebody no showing or something like that, it was starting to happen where like I felt like I was almost caring more than the people cared, right? Like I wanted it more for them. And as soon as I switched to the paid discovery session model, it completely shifted the dynamic of like, we're both in this together sort of thing. Like we're both giving something here. And it just made the entire journey of coaching so much better. And you and I were talking in the mastermind and then just in general conversation, you were talking about how you also made this switch from doing free consultations to discovery sessions, but you like knew all of your numbers. And I did this so long ago, it was probably 10 years ago now. Like I wish I had all my numbers from back in the day, you know? And so I was like, I want to interview you. I want to talk about like, what did you experience? What was this like? And that kind of thing. So I want to take you all the way back, Emily, to like beginning of you helping people, maybe like full-time or sort of part-time, like, you know, not when you were helping people on the side for free, but like sort of when you decided that this is like a business. Okay. How did you first set it up? Like, how did you do the free consultation? Did you charge per session? Just give us a little bit of insight of like, what was the beginning step that you used?
The main beginning step I used was selling packages of like 3 or 4 sessions.
Why do we all do that? We all do that, I think.
And I didn't even have a timeline. I'm like, you know, people would ride them out for like 6 months. I mean, it was terrible.
Me too.
And I priced them based on what like a massage cost, which makes no sense. It's totally different work, totally different value. And so I was like, I don't know, like 60 or 65 an hour-ish. And so I was selling these packages, maybe 4 or 5 sessions for like $300 or something. And so that's what I was doing. And it was not super successful.
With a consult before that in order to sort of pitch that idea to somebody, or how did people find out about that?
Honestly, I didn't ever do an hour free consult.
Okay.
I don't remember how long my consults were in the beginning though, because even when it started being kind of a real business, it was still a lot of people coming to me just, I'm an acupuncturist. I heard that you can help me with this. And I was like, sure, great. And then I was just launching right into teaching people how to use YNAB, just diving right into their numbers. It was not a good system when I first started, but I was very excited about it.
Yeah, of course. I mean, of course. Yeah. I mean, we learn so much, right? And this is where I want to make sure that as we talk about these things, it's not right versus wrong. I feel like they're all steps that we take and we learn and we grow through them, right? And it's almost like rites of passage in some way, right? Where we have to sometimes try it. And, you know, sometimes people will say to me, like, I tried that because I felt like it made sense to me, but you're dead right. Like that was exactly what ended up happening, was the same thing that happened to you. But I never begrudge somebody for thinking that they need to try it. They need to see for themselves, like they need to experience it kind of thing. So that's totally what sometimes happens. Okay. So you did packages first, and then what did you do?
Well, the first 3 years I didn't profit at all because I was doing these packages and I had horrible boundaries because I didn't have kids yet. I had more time. So I was going over like every session. I wanted to help people so much, and I knew that I could, to the point where I almost just wanted to give them my time for free to like fix their problem. because I was so excited about the potential outcome.
Yeah.
So
we want it more than some people do sometimes, right? Like we really do care a lot. Like we want to help people. We know that this work can change someone's life and have such a positive impact that we want it so bad for people.
Yes. But then I did the academy in 2018 after I had learned more and more that this was like a real field. And then I actually started profiting, which was really nice.
Good.
And part of that was feeling brave enough to separate out this initial session. And I learned that I just totally loved it. Like I loved having this super deep dive, thorough session that was 2 or 2.5 hours long, where we'd really get to the heart of their questions,
absolutely,
actually answer them, take the time to talk through everything and come up with what I call a sustainable spending plan for their business and personal life. And it was, part of it was having it be long enough. Because when you first meet someone, you need to know like everything in order to confidently make a plan. And so I fell in love with that first session. And I think I needed that permission from the academy to say, oh, that's a thing I can charge for, that I completely undercharged for at first, wildly.
Do you remember what you charged at first?
Oh, I don't know, $197 or something.
Yeah. I think mine, like really early on, granted, this was probably 10 years ago, was like $87 or something like that. No, really, it was low. And then I think I went to like 135. Yeah. So I had like baby increments, and now we charge, either $597 or $797 for our discovery session. If it's a business owner, of course, we need more time and a lot more prep work and stuff, but yeah. Okay. Interesting. All right. And then you experienced something where you weren't totally committed to the discovery session. So some people didn't have to do the discovery session, but some people did, or something like that. Yeah.
So that was where I had a few years of confusion around selling the discovery session. It wasn't until a little over a year ago that I became really clear that all clients had to do that first. And I accepted that they wouldn't all go on to my 3-month program because they wouldn't all be a perfect fit. But the simplicity making that change was huge. I have earned twice what I earned last year.
Wow.
So like last year, my revenue was 50, and I think it's going to be 100 this year.
Yes, it is.
And it all stemmed from like that one change, I think, because I made that change to where on my free 20-minute calls with people, I wasn't wondering the whole time, am I going to sell them a standalone session? And am I going to sell them a 3-month program? Am I going to prorate my 3-month program and fold the discovery session in? Like, it was just so confusing to me. And then when I made the change of just all new clients have to do this first, then it was incredibly easy to sell because A, it was a lower price point. B, it was just very clear. Like, there's one thing I'm selling. I don't even try to sell you a 3-month program on that first call. I just say, if we want to talk about it at the end of the discovery session, we can. And then I do ask them in my prep work for that session, like, do you want to talk about further coaching at the end of the session or not? So I already know.
You know what has happened to us, Emily? I don't know if you've experienced this yet. We've had, we asked that same question as well. So you're sort of like setting it up so they know that there's more work that we can do together. And we've had people say no to that question, and we always respect that boundary. Like, if they say no, then we are not going to bring it up. We're not going to pressure. We're not going to push, that kind of thing. That's just not who we are. But we've had so many people get to the end of their discovery session and they say no. And then they are like insisting that we talk about it. They're like, but wait, and we'll say to them, we were out of respect for you. We were, not going to talk about this because, you would answer this question, blah, blah. And they're like, well, that's before we met you. That was before we knew. And it really is such a guarded thing sometimes. Right. And the discovery session, I think, makes it so much more tangible of the work that we do. It can be so abstract sometimes, like talking about it, and it is slightly different for each person, right? Like, even when you niche down, what that person feels like they need is slightly different from one person to the next. And so it's like delivering on some initial concerns and challenges and bringing that clarity for them. And that's the thing with that discovery session, is that it's not just financial solutions. It's helping them get to the heart of what they want, why they want it, the impact that that would have if they were to make these changes, because all of those things are what make the changes easier for them to actually take, right? And like actually take action and move forward in those types of things. I will say that what you were describing too about, we call it mind drama, right? That idea of like you're talking to somebody. It doesn't matter if you're at a networking event or if you're on a 15-minute consult or if you're in your discovery session, does not matter where in the business model you are. If in your mind, instead of focusing solely on that client the entire time, you're in your own head around, should I be doing this? What am I going to say? Oh my God, here it's getting closer to when I need to sell them something, like, oh my God, like, and we're getting nervous and we're not sure what that next step is. This is why we believe so passionately that in the academy, you want to have your business model sort of dialed in and outlined, because the idea, there's so many people that say you don't need that, like business coaches, but financial coaches 100% do. I promise, the way we are, our breed of people, we want to think 3 steps out. We're always thinking about what's next, right? It's just the way we're planners, like that kind of thing. So in those sessions, we are doing that. We need to know the answers to those questions so that we can truly focus on the client and simply serving the client in that moment. That way, when the time comes, it's so easy to simply invite the person to take the next step. But you want to have that entire journey just sort of mapped out. It doesn't have to be perfect, but the idea is that you don't want to be having those dilemmas or those debates in your head while you're supposed to be serving your client really well. It absolutely holds you back. The client can sense it, even if they can't put their finger on it, like they can sense it. We're not able to deliver as great of results in that moment, or like ask the best questions and that sort of thing, because we're just in our own head about things. And so this is absolutely why, like in the academy, you're going to follow along the client journey and like build out every single step, so that in those moments, you just got to lead the client through that journey. That's our job. Right. So I just wanted to say that really quickly, because that mind drama you were experiencing is so normal for all of us.
Oh, it was huge. And I wasn't valuing myself enough in the work that I provided, the value I provided, because on those calls, I'd always want to give everyone a deal. And if I felt like they were hesitating, I'd be like, oh, well, I would be so tempted to just give away that first session entirely for free if they signed up for the 3-month program. It was like, and then I'd have to go in and change my job form.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And like, oh, it was just so much more work for me to like tailor my prices to each client. And so when I made the commitment last year, mentally, I did finally realize, like, I want to double my revenue here. Like, I'm working a lot. I have kids now. My life has changed.
Yeah.
I'm ready for grown-up salary and stuff.
Yeah.
The difference it made energetically to just have the standalone session, oh my goodness. It was like, then I could streamline my website. Then I could streamline all of my forms and my client journey. It just simplified everything and then ended up freeing up a ton of my time.
Yeah.
And I just,
don't you think too that like your coaching became better? Like, don't you think like the results you got the client were like exponentially better because of all of the, you weren't messing with any of those other things. So if you were going to spend time on anything, it was actually thinking about the client, and it was actually thinking about like, what do they need? How can I show up best for them? Like those types of things. And then we have more time to sort of talk with the client, get to know them better. They get to know us better. Like really and truly, the relationship is stronger from moment go. Like it just is, I feel like.
well, especially if I am not even running my business to the level at which like I'm coaching my clients. So if I have all these clients that are making around 6 figures and really wanting to contribute more to retirement and take time off and all of these things, but I'm undercharging so much that I have way too many clients and I'm stressed out and I'm not able to take care of myself. It's like I am being a bad example for these business owners I'm working with. And so last year, before I made the change, part of it was because I was too busy not earning enough, but too busy with just like stacked meetings all day. And I just realized something's wrong here.
Mm-hmm.
And so much of it was just the mindset of, I don't want to charge them too much, but if I charge them more appropriately, then it freed up my time. I came more prepared to sessions. I felt honored
Mm-hmm.
for the work that I was providing. I feel like my coaching got a lot better.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And so when did you said it was last year, or when did you officially make the change to like the discovery session is first? It is the thing that everybody must do first. When did you make that change officially?
Last August.
Last August. Okay. And so let's talk about some of your numbers. So how many discovery sessions do you do per month?
Now I do 6 on average.
6 on average per month. So some months more, some months less. So awesome. And how much do you charge for your session?
If someone is not self-employed, it's $395, and it's $495 if they are.
Good. Okay. And you're niching towards self-employed. So it's likely at some point you're going to start seeing more and more of those and fewer possibly of the non-self-employed. You'll always attract people outside of your niche. That will continue to happen. So people,
and that's great.
If they niche down, that won't happen. But, and then you can decide at some point, maybe you decide that you no longer take those clients, or you continue doing it. Like you just never, we still serve both individuals and couples and small business owners. So we never niched one towards the other, but so if you do 500 a month for 6 of them, that's $3,000 a month, right? So 4 times,
which was like what I was making like in total.
Yeah. So anywhere from 2,400 to 3,000 a month, depending on which one they're booking per month in discovery sessions. You are truly delivering value during those. You're coaching people, you're having great coaching sessions, you're forming great relationships and that sort of thing. How many of those clients are moving forward and moving on to more coaching after that?
So I switched to Active Campaign this year from my old janky spreadsheet tracking system. And so I'm not 100% sure on my conversion rate because some things got lost in that client transition.
Of course. Yeah.
I think it's about half.
Yeah. 50%. Yeah. Okay.
And that would make sense because I can't serve all of those people. I don't have enough 3-month program spots to serve everyone. So, and not everyone's a good fit. Sometimes someone doesn't sign up and I am so relieved.
Yeah. Right. Yes. I mean, there are times too, where it's like the discovery session truly is all that a person needs for that time of their life. Like maybe they will come back later, but they're sort of like, there's so much going on that what they need is just some clarity for right then and there of what they can do, some action steps, people to talk to, questions to ask themselves, all that sort of thing. And it really is just all that they need. And how blessed are we that we get to design our business in a way that can deliver that value for them, but also for the people who want even more, we have that option too. Right. Mm-hmm. So before you started doing that, how many clients? So let's say 3 new clients a month by the sounds of it. We'll just say that on average, right? How many new clients before you started doing discovery sessions? And that, any idea like about how many new clients you were getting per month, or how many people were sort of moving forward?
It might've been more, but it's just because I was giving everybody a deal.
Yeah.
So I was like taking on all these 3-month clients at way too low of a rate.
It was way cheaper. Yeah. You're right. Your prices were way lower. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That'd be interesting because it's hard to compare apples to apples because we can't do that. So it's like comparing apples to oranges a little bit, where it's like, if you would have kept all your pricing the same, it would have been, but that's also not in alignment with what you were trying to achieve. And it's not in alignment with what your niche needed from you and like that kind of thing. So I am glad that you didn't do that. I'm proud of you for not keeping your prices the same, but it would have been interesting because at a lower price, of course, there's more quantity, there's more people who would be willing to pay that and that sort of thing. The more you raise your prices, sometimes what happens is it is going to narrow down the number of prospects a little bit, right? That's a very natural thing that happens. But in your sense, it was what you wanted to have happen, right? Like it was exactly what you wanted. So, and the end result is that you are making double this year compared to last year as a result of making this change.
And joining the mastermind.
Yes, exactly. Yes. I'm trying to think, is there any other results of this strategy that you want to share or any other takeaways? So financially better, time-wise better, client coaching sessions are better, energetically it's better, you feel more valued, all, I mean, check, 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 right? Like all amazing. Is there anything that we're missing that was also a result
I think
of this?
it was holding me back from taking a number of steps,
Ooh,
like
okay, tell me more.
refining my website, niching. There were so many things that it was holding me back from. And so it's like that clarity is kindness saying, just me being extremely clear. This is what I charge. This is the first step. This is the second step, third step. It's like, then I was able to free myself up to work on all these different parts of my business. And that's
Bring
the
even more
biggest
clarity
benefit.
to those areas and better results
Yes.
with those areas. Fascinating.
Yes.
I love that. It's like this was holding you back so much because there was friction here, right? So much of your energy was going towards this area. And then once that was resolved, it was like, now you could dedicate that energy to other areas.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Amazing. So what would you say, like any tips for people on sort of bridging the gap if they're doing free consults now, or if they're doing just, hey, buy 4 sessions at X amount, which is what so many of us do when we first start. Any thoughts on like what you experienced first when you told yourself you were going to do this? Was it easy for you to do it, or was there like a lot of hesitations and fears, or was it like once you decided you just did it?
I think it's what you said earlier. People just really need to honor the value of that intensive of a consult where you are heard, where someone asks you about what you value in life, what your long-term goals are, maybe what baggage you're bringing to the table around money that you really need to just say out loud that might be holding you back. When it comes to couples, like someone holding space for you for 2.5 hours to decide how you're going to merge your finances or what shared goals you want to work on together. I mean, there's no other person who will do that. Financial advisors don't do that. It's not what they focus on. It is just such a unique offering in the world. Mm-hmm. And so I think that for anyone hesitating about offering a standalone session, I think they just need to realize that it's what most everyone needs. Like if anyone is like, I feel like I need help with my money, like they need a 2 to 2.5 hour session, I feel like, to get their questions thoroughly answered and to talk through sort of their money blocks around things like retirement or home buying or things. They need to talk it through long enough to actually feel confident that they came away having learned something, so that they can move forward. So whether or not someone does a 3-month program, I just think there's an insane amount of value in that initial consult.
Mm-hmm. We have people who do a discovery session. Ours is called a Eureka session, and they don't move forward right away. There's some reason, and it's totally fine. We always leave the door open. We always say, we're here when you're ready and that kind of thing. We have so many people come back a year later, 2 years later, and it's because of the value they received during that session. The other amazing benefit is even if a person doesn't move forward, they likely gained so much value that they are out talking about it. We get so many people who don't move forward with coaching, but they send 10 people in the next 6 months because they feel so much better. They're taking action. They're going to gain some momentum. Now, in my opinion, there are definitely times where I'm like, oh, we could do so much more if we moved forward. Like I'm thinking, oh man, I would love to like do even more, but they're proud of what they've achieved, right? Like they're good with their level of success. And that's ultimately what's most important, is like, are they okay with it? And if they are, then they're out, they become walking, talking ambassadors for your brand and for the work that you do, right? Which I just think is so important.
And also I know that so many people just struggle in the first few years with experience, and they just need more clients and more experience under their belts. And so if you have this offering, I think mine was like $250 or $275 for a pretty long time. Mm-hmm. But people would see that price and say, okay, yeah, I can make that investment. Yeah. And so just the more of them you do, the better you get at the process and experience, the more confident you get, it becomes even more easy to sell people because you just know they're going to benefit. Like there's no way they wouldn't benefit from doing that consultation. And one thing that I also learned, which really helped, was I really refined my prep work after doing it for a few years.
Absolutely.
And after I raised the prices a little and had it be a standalone session, I realized I wanted to prepare my clients way better. And so last fall, I recorded a ton of videos walking them through the prep work, especially for people who have like anxiety and overwhelm.
Especially for business owners who they're like, I don't know where to find these numbers. Like, I don't know, what is she like? And there's different lingo and terms for things. So you want to sort of talk through that a little bit. Absolutely.
And so now in their prep work, it's almost like an online course that they get access to of like, here are the downloads you need to fill out, but here's like more information than you probably ever need helping you do that. So that by the time you come to your session, you've already gotten a ton of value. Like I've already guided you through getting a ton of value and clarity about your finances. And you also learn over time that you like say the same things all the time as a coach. And I was like, well, what if I just recorded me saying a lot of these things beforehand? Absolutely. So that they come to the session like even more engaged, even more prepared, and we can get to juicier stuff. So I think there's also lots of opportunity to add even more value to that. So if someone's really struggling with pricing, which I did forever and still do, like I know my session is worth that just because of like even the prep work.
Which I'll tell you is how I want I think that's how we should always feel. Like I look at our prices and I know some other coaches will be like, oh my God, you charge $797 for one session sort of thing. I have no qualms about it. Like I believe wholeheartedly in the value. I feel like we could charge 10 times that and it would still be worth it. We don't, but I believe that we could. Like I want every coach to believe in their price so much that like you quote it and you can just tell that it's like the best damn deal in town, right? Like I am going to bring you clarity. I'm going to help you see a path forward for getting what you want with your money. I'm going to give you steps to create that for yourself. You're going to feel so grounded in what you want. You're going to feel like you intimately understand what you want. Like, what is the value of that? Like it's exponential, right? It's infinite. And so I feel like based on the price, like it's the best damn deal in town, right? And I want every coach to feel that way about the prices that they charge. And at some point it's like, could you charge more? Yes, but it's not always better to do that. You know what I mean? So I'm not saying, Emily, that maybe you will experience a little bit of increase at some point. Maybe you will, but it's not always better either. You know, now I'm curious. One question I have for you is, did you ever find yourself, this is very normal phase that coaches go through when they're doing discovery sessions. They have a period of time where they way over deliver during the session. And as a result, their conversions into long-term coaching completely tank. Like they're actually not having people move forward. And it's actually the design of their discovery session. It's almost like they try to cram like 3 months of coaching into a discovery session a little bit. Did you experience anything like that?
Oh yeah. For at least the first 6 months of offering it as like mandatory standalone session. I mean, it got to the point where I was wanting to help people with like their early retirement number and like so many super nuanced things just because I was like, oh, I can help you with that.
Yeah.
And I did watch some of your trainings about over delivering, which were really helpful. And it's hard because I want clients to come away with this feeling of, wow, I got so much. I have so much to work with. I have tangible action steps. And at the same time, once in a while, I'd have a session where someone would look like they got fire hosed and like, they would just be like, I am overwhelmed.
Yes.
After 2 or 2.5 hours. And I realized, okay, even though I want to help people with all of the topics about finances they feel unclear about, cloudy about, disempowered about, like you just can't help them on all of those topics in one meeting. And so at some point this year, maybe 6 months ago, I was like, okay, how do I not end sessions with overwhelm? How do I transition much more quickly into the conversation of what cash flow management system are you going to use to actually enact this plan we just made? What support do you need? Because I also needed to leave room for having the conversation of what support might you need from me. Whereas if I was talking about, I don't know,
strategies,
retirement or something like until 1 minute before the session ended, then there's no time to talk about that. And I think it's one of the most important things to address in that session is what support do you need to actually carry out this new plan that you just made that you're so excited about. So yes, I over-delivered for a very long time. And it's something I'm still working on.
Very common. I think a couple things. It doesn't serve our clients best by making them think they can solve all of their money problems with one session, right? It's not realistic. It's not accurate. Money is a lifelong journey of growth and progress. And chances are we've had years and a lifetime of creating the belief system we have, the habits that we have, the way, this financial situation that we're in. It's not possible to sort of like have quick fixes. And one of the best things you can do for a discovery session is let them know that, like, this is the beginning of your financial growth. This is the beginning of your amazing financial journey. And it's going to start to feel a lot easier from here than what it has felt like. But this is sort of just the beginning. The other thing I will say is a goal with the discovery session. I know you know this now, but for those watching this, there's 2 videos that I want to point people to, and we'll put them in the show notes. The first is like the 9 phases of a discovery session. So we actually break down from start to finish how this session should go, what to talk about, all those types of things. And then a second session or a second video, which is all about once you've been doing them for a while and you find yourself either not converting from them or over delivering, which is a total trap most people find themselves in, or not carving out time at the end to invite them to work with you and that sort of thing. There's an entire video about now here's how you take your discovery session to a new level. Because it's almost like, again, another rite of passage where we have to sort of like make it like we give it too much thought. Like it's almost like we want to deliver as much value as possible. And so we go into like, here's some of the things you're probably doing and how to sort of reframe those. And one of them is a discovery session. Really, the goal is not to cover a variety of things about their money. It's not to sort of say like, oh, here's your early retirement number, and here's your cash management system, and here's your debt payoff plan, and here's how you talk with your spouse about money and hold budget meetings. And like, it's like, it's not that. It's actually more depth of one area of their finances and like really getting as clear as possible on what that area could look like. Now, that area can be their spending plan so that they can achieve a particular goal, right? And maybe that goal is getting out of debt or buying a house or whatever the case may be. But it's almost like tackling that one problem from so many different angles so that they intimately understand that problem, right? So here's the financial part of it. Here's what created it. Here's some of the things I do every day that might be making it worse. Here's the things I'm doing that are preventing it from getting even worse than it already is. That's just as important, right? Here's how I feel about it. Here's what could change in my life and about the way I feel and the trajectory of my life if I were to solve this one part, right? So it's like really helping them to wrap their brain around the entire part of their money, not just like, let's touch on a whole bunch of different parts of your money, right? Which is really overwhelming. And that video, the second video dives into that a bit deeper of like, here's probably some of the traps that you're finding yourself in if we're all of a sudden not converting enough from that. We can also focus too much on action steps, right? Do this, then do this, as opposed to like helping them understand when you go to do this, here's what might come up for you when you go to do this. I would rather give them 3 action steps, but help them know, here's what might come up for you when you go to do this. This sounds easy, but when you go to do it, it's going to be a lot harder than what it sounds on paper, right? And here's why. Let's talk about what you're going to do when that happens, like those types of things versus like 12 takeaways. Go do all these 12 things, right? Like it was actually better to have them experience those wins, and they're more likely to experience wins if they understand what they're about to embark on, right? So, okay, what kinds of things did you try that did not work? And let's try to move through these somewhat quickly.
Like I mentioned, just giving everyone a discount, giving them a deal, reducing my packages. If I heard how much they earned, sometimes I'd be like, oh, well, I'll just I'll just change it so that it's like half the sessions and I charge you half. I don't know. It was just, I was catering to everyone.
Totally.
Another thing was just boundaries in general.
Mm.
I learned at a certain point that my sessions need to be 50 minutes instead of 60 so that I can have a snack and use the bathroom, drink some water.
Yeah.
And even that was like a huge change in the flow of my workday.
Yeah.
And in the beginning, I went over all the time. And now I hardly ever go over because my appointments are stacked.
Good.
So I think one of the biggest ones for people is first saying, when do I want to work?
Mm.
And then having that schedule available instead of saying, I will be available all day. When do clients need me? Because I only work like 10 to 4 and it's fine.
Yeah. Right.
And it works out.
Yeah. I think it's one of the questions we get all the time is like, do I have to work evenings? Do I have to work weekends? And the reality is no, you don't.
No.
It's hard to say no sometimes, but one of the things, because I did this, I used to work every Saturday for a while. And then I remember going down to one Saturday and I told myself I had to do that. That's what people needed. Right. And it's amazing to me when people ask, I can only do Saturdays. And if I say, I'm sorry, I don't, hold sessions on Saturdays, miraculously, they can now find another time that works, right? Like it went from, I can only do Saturdays to now all of a sudden there's other options that are available right now. And I think what happens is people are like, Saturdays are best for me. Right. And I get that. I get that they want to do it when maybe they aren't coming off of work or thinking about their work day. And like, they need that sort of mentality. And that I totally get that. But as soon as you sort of say, I'm sorry, I don't do evenings, or I'm done at 5 every day, so we just my last session is at 4 every day, it immediately, like, all of a sudden doesn't become a problem, so, but you just have to trust that that's going to happen. So, let's see here. Okay. What are 3 to 5 steps that coaches could take today to make this transition either more successful for them?
I would say I've already talked about some of these things, but just know how valuable an initial session is.
That's good. Yeah.
Again, I think it's what everyone needs when they first realize I really just need support and help with my money. So whatever you price it at, just know it's at least worth that much.
Yeah.
Most likely more. And the thing with business, right, is that you can change it anytime. So if you could try doing it, and if at some point you realize, I really just like jumping into a 3-month program, like, great. But I think there's so much value in valuing the session, charging for it, and getting more experience under your belt.
You can always change it. I totally agree. I do think that is one of the benefits. I don't want to skim over this because I think it's so important, especially when you're newer, is you want experience coaching, and you want to make sure the experience you're gaining coaching is actually real coaching and valuable coaching. And so, like I was saying, those free consultations, they don't feel like an actual coaching session sometimes. You know what I mean? Especially depending on how the person is showing up and like those types of things. And there's ways to work around that, as far as setting clear expectations, have an application. There's lots of different steps a person can take to make those free consultations even better, and at the same time, imagine you want to almost learn really quickly, how am I going to feel about showing up when someone has paid me for coaching? Right. When I am charging for this, how many of us started doing this for free? So many of us, right? Like friends, families. So, I mean, it's literally like very common on these videos that we do with coaches, how many of us started that way. And it's almost easier, because you're not needing to value it. And so the sooner you can start charging for the value, there's going to be growing pains there. So you got to sort of like rip that Band-Aid off as quickly as possible. Right. And this is one great way to do that, as opposed to doing free consultations. And then that can set a tone of like, I'm not getting value, or I'm not being valued, or people aren't taking action based off my free consultations. And that can really like affect the way we feel about this work, right? By doing it that way. And making this transition can absolutely like solve that problem. What's you were talking about being honest with your clients. So can you touch on that one a little bit?
Yes. So this was one of my biggest struggles. And when I'm in a sales conversation, sometimes I literally need to pretend I work for someone else. So like there's Emily owner of the company, and then there's Emily, financial coach, right? And I will pretend someone else is the boss.
Yes. Oh, I love that.
If someone else was the boss and I wasn't, I don't know, the person profiting from the company or whatever, I would be such a good salesperson, right? I would just be like,
Yeah.
oh my God, coaching's incredible. Like, here's all the things it's going to do for you. And the way that I would show up for that would be really different than the way I usually do because I am the owner. And so sometimes I literally have to put that hat on. And for so long, what I struggled with was not being honest with people about what they really needed. And so I was getting lots of hot mess business owner clients with commingled everything who needed like a lot of support.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to charge them what I knew it would take to really have them be successful. So I was either.
Why do you think that is? Because I've done that too. Why do you think that is another sort of like rite of passage? I feel like so many of us do that.
I think it was this weird mentality of like, it's their money or my money, and I'm fine. I'll just charge them less or something. But it was an awful boundary. And as soon as I had enough experience where I could confidently say, wow, okay, you need at least my 3-month program. We need to meet weekly the first 6 weeks. Like, as soon as I was confident telling them what I knew they would really need to be successful, that changed everything.
Because then they showed up for that, right? Like they were like, okay, like they just needed to know that expectation.
Yeah, they had way more realistic expectations. They didn't think like, oh, after 4 sessions, my money is going to be all dialed in and perfect. Because it takes way longer than that. And people like that are going to have a lot of homework that they need to do outside of sessions, and they need time to do that. So that's definitely something I'd recommend, is whether you have to do it in the moment by, I don't know, just pausing before you answer the question when someone asks what they need or what the next step is, or if it's after a session and you just think it through before writing them a proposal, just really honoring like, what would this person really need to have financial transformation? Because it's probably more than 3 or 4 sessions.
And I think that is one of the elements of the discovery session that is oftentimes missed. It's like this idea of they have a very particular goal. They're probably coming to you with a very specific question or challenge they want to solve or desire they're trying to achieve, right? It's usually one of those things. And our job in the discovery session is to paint a very clear picture of what it's going to take to achieve that thing, right? Whatever that is. And that it should be a very realistic picture. It's not going to be easy every step of the way. It's not going to be all rainbows and unicorns and butterflies and that sort of thing. There's going to be times when you go to do this that it will be hard. It will be a challenge. And like our job is not to take away the hard work or anything like that. It's to make the journey easier. It's not to make the journey easy, if that makes sense. We can make it easier, but what makes it easier is helping them to know this is what's coming, is to prepare them, not to remove the steps, if that makes sense, but it's to prepare them for the steps that they're about to take. And that's why a discovery session is typically longer, because you want to talk through all of that nuance a little bit of like, here's how this is going to go. Here's how you're going to feel. Here's, what part of this journey do you think worries you the most, right? Like what step feels the hardest for you? Like those types of questions are super helpful because you're mentally and emotionally preparing them to take those steps. Yeah.
And then they can more realistically assess, do I need support doing
exactly.
this?
Yeah. Because if you're going into it painting this very easy picture that this journey is going to be super easy, you're going to get out of debt, no problem, right? Then you're never going to face temptation, that kind of thing. Then of course, if that's what I think, then I don't need support. It's going to be easy. I got this, right? And it's much better to paint a realistic picture, but then it's also easier to say, these are the types of things I help with along the journey. Is that something that you would find value in, right? Or however you want to word that part of the process. But yeah, being honest with that expectation is a stage of growth, I think, that we all go in, and like, how do we communicate that, Good. I love it. Anything else? Any other thoughts?
I had one other tip, which I've talked a little bit about dialing in your system for these sessions. And by that, I don't mean like map out exactly what you're going to talk about. I mean, sort of the logistical piece of organizing the session, how a client signs up, how they pay, make that streamlined and clean, give them the prep work you want them to have before the session, set all the expectations around boundaries and cancellation and all of that stuff. Because I feel like that clarity helps you be a better coach when the session time actually comes. It helps them respect you, really value the time, come prepared, come ready to dive in. And it just makes it a better coaching experience where, like you said, so many people just want the experience of, I showed up, I coached well, it went well. I feel like these people are actually going to get value and do their homework. And I really do feel like all that logistical stuff is important. Some of the business owners I work with, when they first come to me, their systems are like wildly loosey-goosey as far as their own client journeys. And it's really impacting them. And it's super obvious how much it's impacting them. So I think, again, clarity is kindness with your clients. Here's the framework, here's the boundaries, make signing up for it easy, make the prep work easy. And I think that elevates the session a lot in itself.
Yeah. Not only that, I mean, we've definitely had, we tackle this, as you know, very intimately in a lot of detail in the academy. And, we've definitely had other business coaches, let's say, who say, you don't need that when you first start, and you don't need that level of detail when in your contracts and in expectations and in boundaries and that sort of thing. And one, I think financial coaches, we do, because we do like to sort of plan 3 steps out. So I think it's sort of who we are, but 2, I think it's a big misconception. I think people assume that the value of coaching happens during the client session. And that is true. There's a big chunk of the value of coaching comes during the 1-hour client session. But so much of the growth that client is going to experience comes from what is happening before and after the session and in between sessions, and the communications between them and their coach when they're not in the middle of the coaching session. And so by disregarding that a little bit, or like ignoring it because we're so focused on like what's happening during the session, we're actually not moving the client along in their own growth journey as quickly as what we could be. We're not going to get them as faster results. I actually believe like the work you've done to sort of make it so things are very specific, like their process is the same. Like we've got these things, it frees us up to actually serve them even better, which means they get faster results. It's such a key piece of the puzzle that I think so many other programs kind of skip, you know what I mean? Or they just don't think about. I think it gets too discounted. So yeah, I appreciate you saying that. Thank you for touching on that. So, go ahead.
One thing I hear from financial coaches a lot is that they wonder like almost what to talk about.
Yeah.
And for me, I feel like there's so much endless stuff to talk about that if you offer a one-off discovery session, I would just get really clear on, as a coach, what do you want to know about this person? And always be reworking your client questionnaire they fill out beforehand.
Absolutely.
Just make sure that you get the information before the session that you need to deliver what it is that you want to deliver, or coach them through what it is you want to coach them through. I think that's the most important.
Great point. We talk about that too in the academy when I'm going over our prep form and the questions we ask. And I say, like, some of those questions I didn't ask right away. I added them later because a client said something and I thought, gosh, if I would have known that ahead of time, I would have probably done this slightly differently, right? Or I would have handled this situation slightly differently. And things like, how do you receive bad news? Or how do you like to hear something that's going to be hard to hear, right? And clients will tell us either, I like things to be just rip the Band-Aid off, be blunt, don't sugarcoat it, blah, blah, blah. And other people are like, I do okay, I just need some time to process, blah, blah, blah. That is so helpful, because sometimes we go into those situations and it's not always this beautiful picture of like, you're going to be able to hit your goal in 3 months sort of thing. It's like, this is going to be a 2-year timeline, right? Here's what that's going to look like, that sort of thing. And you wonder, am I telling them something they don't know? Is this going to be a surprise to them? Are they going to, not love this conversation right here? And if you know how they receive that information best, like what form of communication is best for them. It's such a small change that we can make in how we communicate that it doesn't affect us all that much. And so simply by asking that question on the prep form, it has helped us tremendously make it so that those sessions go more smoothly, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So Emily, thank you so much for sharing your expertise. I am just so excited for you because I feel like you're like, as far as you've come, you're sort of like your trajectory is about to go like this. And this is very normal, right? Where we think progress looks like this, but typically it's like this for a while. And then we start to make some changes and then it's like this, right? And I feel like that's like, right, you're already experiencing it. I think it's only going to get better from here. And I am just so excited for you. So thank you for taking the time to share all of your thoughts, your journey, your expertise with everybody, and keep us posted on your progress. I want you to share with everybody your website, remind everybody of who your niche is, who you serve, and then also just share your website and that sort of thing really quickly for us.
So my website is pdxmoneycoaching.com.
Okay.
And my niche is couples where one or both of them are self-employed and they need help merging or sharing their finances, knowing how much to pay themselves regularly from the business. And typically they have kids, school-aged kids, and, you know, a lot of financial categories, like they're homeowners. There's a lot that they're responsible for in life. And so the system that I use with people works really well for those folks because their budget is complex.
Yeah. They got a lot of moving pieces. Mm-hmm. That's awesome. So PDX financial coaching, money coaching.
Okay.
pdxmoneycoaching.com. Individuals or couples who own their own business and are looking to make that part of their life easier. Super excited. So for anybody, if you know somebody who could use Emily's help, if you know someone in that niche and they could definitely use Emily's guidance as a financial coach, please send them over to pdxmoneycoaching.com and leave us a comment with some takeaways you've experienced from this video. Even if you just want to leave us a comment and say thank you to Emily for sharing her wisdom with us, I would really appreciate that. And I'm sure Emily would too. Thank you everyone for tuning in, and make sure you check out financialcoachacademy.com for events and programs and fun meetups, all for financial coaches. Talk to you guys later.